David always thought people who believed in strange things were just making up stories. He was the kind of guy who needed to see something with his own eyes before he would believe it. He was working as a computer technician in the small town of Millbrook. He spent his days fixing laptops and smartphones. His life was pretty normal and predictable, just the way he liked it. That Thursday evening started like any other. David was driving home from work, taking his usual route along the quiet country road that cut through the woods. The old highway wasn't used much anymore since they built the new interstate. But David preferred it because it was peaceful and gave him time to think. The weather had been strange all week. Thick fog rolled in every evening, making it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. David was driving slowly, being extra careful, when he heard a loud pop from under the hood of his car. Steam started coming out, and the engine made terrible, grinding noises before it finally died. Great, just great, David said to himself as he pulled over to the side of the road. He tried starting the car again, but nothing happened. The engine was completely dead. David pulled out his phone to call for help, but there was no signal. This part of the highway was in a dead zone, and the nearest town was 15 miles away. He knew he would have to walk to find help, but first, he wanted to see if he could figure out what was wrong with the car. As he popped the hood, a strange blue light caught his attention. It was coming from somewhere in the woods, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. At first, David thought it might be someone camping, maybe using one of those fancy LED lanterns. But the light was too bright and too blue to be normal. David stood there for a moment, wondering what to do. Every sensible part of his brain told him to ignore the light and start walking toward town. But something about it was so unusual that he couldn't just leave without checking it out. He grabbed his phone's flashlight and carefully made his way into the woods. The trees were thick, and the fog made everything look mysterious. Branches cracked under his feet as he walked deeper into the forest. Following the blue glow that seemed to be getting stronger, after walking for about 10 minutes, David came to a small clearing. What he saw there made him stop dead in his tracks. In the middle of the clearing sat what looked like a large piece of curved metal, about the size of a small car. It was definitely not from any airplane or car he had ever seen. The metal had a strange, almost liquid appearance, and it was giving off that soft blue light. But that wasn't the most surprising thing. Sitting on a fallen log next to the strange object was a young woman. She appeared to be about his age, maybe in her late 20s, with long dark hair and the most beautiful face David had ever seen. She was wearing clothes that looked normal enough, jeans and a simple shirt, but something about her seemed different. When she looked up at him, David felt his breath catch in his throat. Duh! Her eyes were the most incredible shade of green he had ever seen, and they seemed to have tiny flecks of gold that caught the light. Her skin had a subtle glow to it, like she was lit from within by some soft light. "Oh," she said, standing up quickly. "I didn't expect to see anyone out here." Her voice was soft and musical, with just a hint of an accent that David couldn't quite place. It sounded European, maybe, but not quite like anything he had heard before. "I'm sorry," David said, suddenly feeling embarrassed for wandering into the woods. "I saw the light and thought someone might need help. My car broke down on the road." The woman looked at him carefully, as if she was trying to decide whether she could trust him. "Your car stopped working?" she asked. "Yeah, the engine just died. I was trying to figure out what to do when I saw that light." David gestured toward the strange metal object. "What is that thing?" The woman glanced back at the object, then looked at David again. "It's my ... vehicle. It broke down too." David walked closer, trying to get a better look at the strange metal thing. It didn't look like any vehicle he had ever seen. There were no wheels, no doors that he could see, and the surface was completely smooth, except for what looked like some kind of damage on one side. "This is going to sound crazy," David said, "but this doesn't look like any car I've ever seen." The woman smiled, and David felt his heart skip a beat. "You're right. It's not exactly a car. What is it then?" She was quiet for a long moment, looking at him with those incredible eyes. "It's complicated. I'm not sure you would believe me if I told you." David looked around the clearing, taking in the strange metal object, the mysterious woman, and the whole impossible situation. "Try me. After tonight, I think I might believe just about anything. The woman sat back down on the log and patted the space next to her. My name is Luna, she said, and I think I'm going to need your help. David sat down beside her, close enough that he could smell a faint, sweet scent that reminded him of flowers he couldn't name. I'm David, and I'll help you if I can, but I have to admit, I'm pretty confused about what's going on here. Luna looked at the damaged object, then back at David. That's my ship, she said simply. I was traveling when something went wrong. I crashed here 3 days ago. Your ship, David repeated. Like a boat? Luna shook her head. No, not that kind of ship. The kind that travels between places that are very far away. David stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. Are you telling me that's some kind of spaceship? I know how it sounds, Luna said quickly. I know you probably think I'm crazy, but yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. David looked at the object again, then back at Luna. Everything about the situation was impossible, but somehow, looking into her eyes, he found himself believing her. And you... Not from around here, Luna finished. Not from anywhere on this planet. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of her words hanging in the air between them. David knew he should be scared, or at least running back to his car to get away from this strange situation. But instead, he felt drawn to this mysterious woman in a way he had never experienced before. So what happened to your ship? David asked Luna. Pointed to the damaged side of the object. Something hit us while we were traveling? The navigation system was damaged and we lost control. I managed to land here, but I can't fix it alone. David asked. I was traveling with others, but they... Luna's voice trailed off, and she looked sad. They didn't make it. David felt a surge of sympathy for her. I'm sorry. That must be terrible. Thank you, Luna said softly. I've been trying to repair the ship, but I need help. Some of the parts are too heavy for me to move alone. David looked at the ship again, then at Luna. I don't know anything about spaceships, but I'm pretty good with technology. Maybe I can help you figure out what's wrong. Luna's face brightened. Really? You would do that? Sure, David said, surprised by how quickly he had made the decision. I mean, my car's broken down anyway, so I'm not going anywhere tonight. Luna smiled, and David felt that strange flutter in his chest again. There was something about her that made him want to help her, to protect her, to spend more time with her. There's something else, Luna said. I need to warn you that this might be dangerous. God, if others find out about me, about my ship, it could cause problems? What kind of problems? The kind where people ask a lot of questions that I can't answer? The kind where I might have to leave very quickly? David nodded. I understand. Your secret is safe with me. Luna reached out and touched his hand, and David felt a little shock of electricity run up his arm. Her skin was warm and incredibly soft. Thank you, David, she said. I haven't met many people like you. As they sat there in the clearing, surrounded by the strange blue light from Luna's ship, David realized that his quiet, predictable life had just become anything but normal. And looking at this beautiful, mysterious woman beside him, he found that he didn't mind at all. 3 weeks had passed since that strange night in the woods, and David found himself thinking about Luna every single day. After helping her move some of the heavier pieces of her damaged ship that first evening, he had promised to return the next day with some tools that might be useful for the repairs. What started as a simple offer to help, it turned into something much more. Every day after work, David would pack his toolbox, grab some snacks, and drive out to the old highway. He would park his car in the same spot where it had broken down that first night, then walk through the woods to the clearing where Luna was. Working on her ship, at first David told himself he was just being helpful. Luna was stranded and needed assistance, and he was the kind of person who couldn't just walk away from someone in trouble. But as the days went by, he had to admit to himself that there was more to it than that. He was fascinated by Luna in ways he had never been fascinated by anyone before. She was incredibly smart, understanding technology that seemed decades ahead of anything David had ever seen. The inside of her ship was filled with panels that glowed, with soft light displaying symbols and patterns that hurt his eyes if he looked at them too long. Luna could make the panels respond to her touch, bringing up what looked like star maps and technical diagrams that moved and shifted in 3 dimensions. But despite her advanced knowledge, Luna was also curious about the simplest things in David's world. She would ask him questions that seemed almost childlike in their wonder. Why did humans keep flowers in their homes if they were just going to die? How did music make people feel happy or sad? What was the point of having pets that couldn't talk back? One evening, as they worked together trying to repair what Luna called the energy distribution network, she suddenly stopped and tilted her head to one side. "What's that sound?" she asked. David paused and listened. In the distance he could hear the faint sound of thunder rolling across the sky. "It's going to rain," he said. "We should probably pack up the tools." But Luna was already standing up, looking excited. "Rain? Real rain?" "Yeah, it's just rain. Haven't you seen rain before?" Luna shook her head. "Not like this. Where I come from, we have something similar, but it's different. It falls upward instead of downward, and it's warm like soup." David stared at her. "Rain that falls upward. The gravity on my world works differently than here," Luna explained. "Everything is lighter, softer. This place is so heavy, so solid. Sometimes I feel like I'm going to sink right into the ground." The first drops of rain began to fall, pattering on the leaves above them. Luna held out her hand, palm up, and watched in amazement as the drops hit her skin. "It's cold," she said, laughing. "And it tickles." David watched her face as she experienced rain for the first time, and he felt something warm and tight in his chest. The pure joy on her face was beautiful, and he realized he could watch her discover things about his world forever. "Come here," he said, taking her hand. "If you're going to experience earth rain, you might as well do it right." He led her out. From under the trees and into the open part of the clearing, the rain was coming down harder now, soaking through their clothes and hair. Luna threw her head back and laughed, spinning around with her arms outstretched. "This is amazing," she called out over the sound of the rain. "It's like the sky is crying happy tears." David found himself laughing too, caught up in her excitement. They stood there in the rain, getting completely soaked, and David couldn't remember the last time he had felt so alive. When the rain finally stopped, they took shelter in Luna's ship while their clothes dried. The inside of the ship was warm and comfortable, with soft surfaces that seemed to mold themselves to fit whoever was sitting on them. Luna made him a drink that tasted like honey and starlight, if starlight had a taste. "Thank you," Luna said. As they sat together, listening to the water dripping from the trees outside. "For what? For showing me the rain? For helping me see your world through different eyes." David looked at her, sitting there with her hair still damp and her eyes bright with happiness, and he felt his heart do something strange. "Thank you for letting me help you. These past few weeks have been different. Good different." Luna smiled and moved a little closer to him on the soft bench. "Different how?" David thought about how to explain it. "I used to think my life was pretty good. I had my job, my routine, my quiet little world. But since I met you, everything feels more interesting, more colorful somehow." "I know what you mean," Luna said softly. "I've been to many worlds, seen many different kinds of people, but I've never met anyone quite like you." "What makes me different?" Luna was quiet for a moment, seeming to search for the right words. "You're kind without expecting anything in return. You're curious but not pushy, and you make me feel..."
Ow.
She paused, looking down at her hands. "Make me feel like I could belong somewhere." David felt his breath catch. "What do you mean? I've spent my whole life traveling, never staying in one place for very long. I always thought that was what I wanted. But being here with you, learning about your world, it makes me think about what it would be like to have a home." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts. David found himself studying Luna's face, memorizing every detail. It's the way her eyes crinkled slightly when she smiled. The small scar on her chin that she said came from falling off her first flying machine when she was young. The way she always tucked one strand of hair behind her left ear when she was thinking. "Luna," David said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I think I'm falling in love with you." The words were out before he could stop them, and immediately he felt his face turn red. He had never said anything like that to anyone before, and certainly not to someone he had only known for 3 weeks. Luna looked at him with those incredible green eyes. For a moment, David was afraid he had ruined everything, but then she reached out and took his hand. "I think I'm falling in love with you too," she said. "But David, ... double quotes, but what? There are things about me, about where I come from, that you don't know yet. Things that might change how you feel." David squeezed her hand gently. "Try me. I told you before, after meeting you, I think I can believe just about anything." Luna looked uncertain. "It's not about believing. It's about understanding that my being here, my falling in love with you, it makes everything more complicated." "How complicated?" "The kind of complicated where we might not get to choose what happens next." David felt a chill run down his spine. But he didn't let go of her hand. "What do you mean?" Luna was quiet for a long moment, and David could see she was struggling with something. Finally, she shook her head. "I can't tell you yet. It's not until I figure some things out. But I want you to know that these weeks with you have been the happiest of my life." As David walked back to his car that night, Luna's words echoed in his mind. He was in love with her. That much he was certain of. But he was also beginning to realize that loving someone from another world was going to be more complicated than he had ever imagined. Standing by his car, he looked back toward the woods where Luna's ship was hidden. "She's so beautiful," he whispered to himself. "I wonder if she'd marry me." But even as he said the words, he felt a knot of worry in his stomach. Something in Luna's voice tonight had sounded like goodbye, and David wasn't ready for that. Not. When he was just beginning to understand what it meant to love someone completely, David noticed the change in Luna almost immediately. It started about a week after their conversation in the rain, when they had both admitted their feelings for each other. At first, he thought maybe she was just tired from working so hard on repairing her ship. The repairs were going well, and Luna said they were almost finished. But as the days passed, David realized it was more than tiredness. Luna seemed worried about something, distracted in a way she had never been before. She would stop in the middle of conversations, staring off into the distance as if she was listening to something only she could hear. Sometimes she would disappear for hours at a time, leaving David alone with the ship while she went off into the woods. "Is everything okay?" David asked one evening as they worked together on what Luna called the final repair. "You seem different lately." Luna looked up from the glowing panel she was adjusting, and David could see something that looked like fear in her eyes. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice didn't sound convincing. "Just thinking about what happens next." "What do you mean, what happens next?" "When the ship is repaired, I'll be able to leave," Luna said, not meeting his eyes. Be able to go home. David felt his heart sink. He had been trying not to think about that possibility, hoping that maybe Luna would choose to stay on Earth with him. "Is that what you want? To go home?" Luna was quiet for a long moment. "It's complicated," she said finally. That night, David lay awake thinking about Luna's strange behavior. Something was bothering her, something she wasn't telling him. He decided that the next day, he would try to find out what it was. The following evening, David arrived at the clearing earlier than usual. Luna wasn't there, which was unusual. Her ship was there, glowing softly in the twilight, but there was no sign of her anywhere. David called her name softly, not wanting to attract attention from anyone who might be passing by on the highway. After waiting for about 20 minutes, David heard voices coming from deeper in the woods. One of them was definitely Luna's voice, but she was speaking in a language he had never heard before. It sounded musical, like her normal voice, but the words were completely foreign. David knew he shouldn't follow the voices Luna had asked him to respect her privacy, and he had always tried to do that. But something about the tone of the conversation worried him. Luna sounded upset, maybe even scared. Moving as quietly as he could, David followed the sound of the voices deeper into the woods. After a few minutes, he saw a strange blue light ahead, similar to the light from Luna's ship, but brighter. Crept closer, hiding behind a large tree. And what he saw made his blood run cold. Luna was standing in a small clearing, but she wasn't alone. Floating in the air in front of her were 3 figures made of light. They looked like people, but They were translucent, like holograms. They were speaking to Luna in that musical language, and from their tone, they didn't sound happy. David couldn't understand what they were saying, but he could tell it was some kind of argument. Luna kept shaking her head, gesturing with her hands as if she was trying to explain something. The light figures seemed to be getting more agitated, their voices rising. Then suddenly, Luna switched to English. "No," she said firmly. "I won't do it." One of the light figures responded in accented English. "You have your orders, Luna. The mission must be completed." "The mission was wrong," Luna said. "These people don't deserve what you're planning." Felt his heart start to race. What mission? What were they planning? "You've grown too attached to this world," another light figure said. "This was not supposed to happen." "Maybe it was supposed to happen," Luna replied. "Maybe I was supposed to see that these people are not our enemies. They're not our enemies because they are not strong enough to be our enemies," the first figure said coldly. "They are weak, primitive. They will never know what happened to them." David pressed himself closer to the tree, trying to make sense of what he was hearing. It sounded like Luna's people were planning something terrible for Earth, and Luna was trying to stop them. "I've been studying them for months," Luna said. "They're not primitive. They're complex, emotional, capable of great love and kindness. They don't deserve to be conquered." Conquered. The word hit David like a punch to the stomach. Luna's people weren't just visitors, they were invaders. "You were sent to study their weaknesses, not to fall in love with them," the second figure said. "Your job was to prepare the way for our arrival, not to protect them." "I know what my job was," Luna said, her voice breaking slightly. "But I can't do it. I won't help you destroy this world." "Then you are a traitor to your own people," the first figure said. "And you know what happens to traitors?" The light figures began to fade, but not before the last one spoke again. "You have 3 days to complete your mission, Luna. 3 days to remember where your loyalty belongs. If you do not send the signal by then, we will come anyway, and you will face the consequences." The clearing went dark as the figures disappeared completely. Luna stood alone in the darkness for a moment, then collapsed to her knees and began to cry. David wanted to run to her, to comfort her, but he was frozen in place by what he had just learned. Luna wasn't just a traveler whose ship had crashed. She was a spy, sent to study Earth so her people could invade it. Everything she had told him, everything they had shared together, had been part of her mission. But then he remembered the pain in her voice when she refused to help her people. She had called them wrong. She had said humans didn't deserve to be conquered. She was willing to be branded a traitor to protect Earth. David stepped out from behind the tree. "Luna." She looked up, her face wet with tears. When she saw him, her expression changed to one of horror. "David, how long have you been there?" "Long enough," David said, walking toward her. "Long enough to hear that you're not just a traveler, you're a scout for an invasion." Luna scrambled to her feet, backing away from him. "David, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain how everything you told me was a lie?" "Not everything was a lie," Luna said desperately. "My feelings for you, what we have together, that's all real. That's the most real thing I've ever experienced." David stopped walking toward her. "But you came here to help your people invade Earth." "Yes," Luna whispered. "That was my original mission. But David, you have to believe me. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to help them." "Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm willing to give up everything for this world." "For you?" Luna's voice was steady now, despite her tears. "My people will consider me a traitor. I'll never be able to go home, but I can't let them hurt the people I've come to love." David stared at her, trying to process everything he had learned. The woman he loved was an alien spy who had been sent to prepare Earth for invasion. But she was also willing to sacrifice everything to protect the planet and its people. "What happens now?" David asked. "I have 3 days to decide," Luna said. 3 days to either send the signal that will bring my people here, or to find a way to stop them. And if you don't send the signal, they'll come anyway, and they'll be angry when they get here." David looked at Luna, standing there in the moonlight with tears on her face, and he realized that despite everything he had just learned, he still loved her. Maybe he loved her even more now, knowing what she was willing to sacrifice for him and his world. Then we'd better figure out how to stop them, David said. Luna's eyes widened with surprise. You don't think I'm going to let you face this alone, do you? David walked over to her and took her hands in his. You chose to protect my world. Now let me help you do it. For the first time in days, Luna smiled. But David could see the fear still in her eyes, and he knew that the next 3 days would determine not just their future together, but the future of everyone on Earth. The next 2 days passed in a blur of desperate planning and growing fear. David had taken time off work, telling his boss he had a family emergency. It wasn't exactly a lie. If Luna's people arrived, it would be an emergency for every family. On Earth, Luna had explained more about her people's plan during their first night of working together. Her race, the Celestials, had been traveling through space for thousands of years, looking for new worlds to call home. Their own planet was dying, and they needed somewhere new to live. Earth had been identified as a perfect candidate, similar. Atmosphere, plenty of water, and a population that their advanced technology could easily control. They sent me here 6 months ago, Luna had explained as they sat in her ship, surrounded by the soft glow of her technology. My job was to study human behavior, find weaknesses, and identify the best way to take over without destroying the planet's resources. 6 months? David had asked. But you told me you crashed 3 weeks ago? Luna looked ashamed. I've been living among humans for months, David. I had an apartment in the city, a fake identity, even a job at a research facility. I was gathering information about your technology, your military capabilities, your social structures. David had felt a chill run through him. So when you met me... ... When I met you, everything changed, Luna said quickly. I was supposed to send my final report 2 weeks ago, but I kept delaying it. I told my superiors that I needed more time to study human relationships, but the truth was, I was falling in love with your world, with you. Now, as they worked frantically to find a solution, David tried not to think about how their entire relationship had started as part of Luna's mission. What mattered now was stopping her people from invading Earth. There has to be a way to block the signal, David said as he studied the communication device Luna had shown him. It was hidden inside her ship, a small crystal that glowed with an inner light, some kind of interference or jamming. Luna shook her head. The technology is too advanced. It doesn't work like your radio signals. It sends messages through space itself, through dimensions you don't have names for. Ow. Then what if we destroy it? If I destroy the communication device, they'll know something is wrong. They'll send a scout ship to investigate, and when that ship doesn't report back, they'll send the full invasion force. David rubbed his temples, feeling a headache building. So if you send the signal, they invade. If you don't send the signal, they invade. And if you destroy the device, they still invade. There is one option, Luna said quietly. What? I could send a false signal. Tell them that Earth is unsuitable for colonization, that the atmosphere is toxic to our people, or that the planet is already occupied by a more advanced civilization. David felt a spark of hope. Would they believe that? Maybe, if I'm convincing enough. But David, if they ever find out I lied, they'll brand me as a traitor. I'll never be able to return home. And if they ever do come to Earth, they'll make. Sure, I pay for my betrayal. So you'd be stuck here forever, Luna nodded. Forever. Cut off from my people, my family, my entire civilization. This would become my only home. David looked at her, seeing the pain in her eyes. She was talking about giving up everything she had ever known, everyone she had ever loved except for him. Luna, I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm choosing. Luna reached out and took his hand. I've been thinking about this for weeks, David. Even before my people contacted me. I was already wondering what it would be like to stay here. To build a life with you, but your family. My family raised me to be loyal to our people, to put the needs of our civilization above my own desires. But they also taught me to be compassionate, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. If I help my people invade Earth, I'll be betraying everything they really taught me. David squeezed her hand. Are you sure about this? I'm sure about you, Luna said. I'm sure about what I feel for you, and I'm sure that I can't be part of destroying the world you live in. That night, they prepared for Luna to send the false signal. She spent hours composing the message in her own language. crafting a story that would convince her people that Earth was not worth conquering. She told them that the planet's atmosphere contained a gas that was poisonous to Celestials, and that the dominant species was more aggressive and technologically advanced than previously thought. Will they believe it? David asked as Luna prepared to transmit the message. I don't know, Luna admitted. But it's our best chance. As Luna activated the communication device, the crystal began to glow brighter. Symbols appeared in the air. Above it, shifting and changing as Luna spoke in her musical language. David watched her face as she delivered the lies that would save his world but doom her to exile. When the transmission was complete, Luna collapsed into David's arms, exhausted and emotionally drained. It's done, she whispered. I've told them. That Earth is unsuitable. They'll move on to other worlds. How long before they respond? A few hours? Maybe less. They waited together in the ship, holding each other as the hours passed. David tried to imagine what Luna was feeling, knowing that she had just cut herself off from her entire civilization. He thought about his own family, his friends, his life in Millbrook, and tried to picture never seeing any of them again. Sacrifice Luna was making for him, for everyone on Earth, was almost too big to comprehend. Just before dawn, the communication device activated again. Luna tensed as symbols appeared in the air, and David could see her reading the message from her people. What does it say? David asked. Luna's face was pale. They're angry that I waited so long to send the report, but they believe the information about Earth being unsuitable. They're ordering me to destroy all evidence of my mission and return home immediately. Can you do that? Go back to them? Luna looked at the message for a long moment, then reached out and touched the communication device. The symbols dissolved, and the crystal went dark. I just refused a direct order from the Celestial Council, Luna said. There's no going back now. I'm officially a traitor to my people. David held her tighter. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to give up so much. I'm not, Luna said, looking up at him with those incredible green eyes. I'm exactly where I want to be. As the sun rose over the clearing, David realized that Luna had made her choice. She had chosen Earth over her homeworld, chosen him over her people, chosen love over duty. But he also knew that this was just the beginning of their challenges. Luna would need a new identity, a new life, and they would always have to be careful that no one discovered her secret. Standing there in the morning light, holding the woman who had sacrificed everything for his world, David made his own choice. He was going to spend the rest of his life making sure Luna never regretted the decision she had made. Luna, he said softly, yes. Will you marry me? Luna's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of joy. Yes, David, I'll marry you. As they kissed in the clearing where they had first met, David knew that their love story was just beginning. They had saved the world, but now they had to learn how to build a life together on the planet Luna had chosen to call home. 8 months had passed since that morning when David proposed to Luna in the clearing. As he sat on the porch of their small cabin in the mountains of Colorado, watching his wife tend to their vegetable garden, David sometimes had to remind himself that their incredible love story had really happened. They had moved far from Millbrook. Shortly after Luna sent the false signal to her people, it had been Luna's idea to relocate somewhere remote, where they could start fresh, and where she would be less likely to accidentally encounter anyone who might notice her unusual qualities. David had been reluctant to leave his hometown at first, but he understood her concerns. We need to be careful, Luna had explained as they planned their move. I can control most of my abilities, but sometimes when I'm emotional or tired, things happen that are hard to explain. David had learned what she meant during their first week in the cabin. Luna's skin would sometimes glow faintly when she was happy, and her eyes would change color slightly when she was upset. She could hear sounds from much farther away than any human could, and her body temperature was naturally several degrees cooler than his. These weren't dramatic differences, but they were enough to make people ask questions they couldn't answer. The cabin had belonged to David's uncle, who had passed away the year before, and left it to David in his will. It was perfect for their needs, isolated but not completely cut off from civilization. The small town about 20 miles away where they could buy supplies and wear. Luna could slowly get used to interacting with people as David's wife rather than as a spy studying human behavior. Creating a new identity for Luna had been surprisingly easy. David had a friend from college who worked in computer security and who owed him several favors, without asking too many questions. His friend had helped them create documents that would allow Luna to exist legally as Luna Chen, David's wife, who had grown up overseas and had recently immigrated to the United States. Chen, Luna had asked when David suggested the last name. "It's my mother's maiden name," David had explained. "I thought you might like to have a connection to my family, since you can't contact yours anymore." The sadness that had crossed Luna's face in that moment had broken David's heart. It was one of many reminders of what she had given up to be with him. Building their new life together had been both wonderful and challenging. Luna was incredibly intelligent and learned new things quickly, but there were gaps in her knowledge about human culture that sometimes led to amusing misunderstandings. She had never learned to cook human food, for example, and her first attempts at making dinner had been disasters that left them both laughing and ordering pizza. "On my world, we don't prepare food the same way," Luna had explained after her attempt at making pasta had somehow resulted in what looked like blue rubber. "Our food sources are living energy. We don't heat them or mix them with other things." "Living energy?" David had asked. "It's hard to explain." "Imagine if sunlight was something you could eat, and it tasted different depending on what time of day it was." David had taken over most of the cooking duties after that, though Luna was gradually learning. She was much better at gardening, having an intuitive understanding of plants that amazed David. Their vegetable garden was the most productive he had ever seen, with tomatoes and peppers that grew larger and more flavorful than seemed possible. "Plants respond to intention," Luna had told him when he asked about her gardening skills. "If you approach them with love and patience, they'll give you their best." The hardest part of their new life was Luna's struggle with homesickness. There were nights when David would wake up to find her standing at the window, staring up at the stars with tears on her face. "Do you regret it?" David had asked her one of those nights. "You regret staying here with me?" "Never," Luna had said firmly. "I regret that loving you had to mean losing them, but I don't regret the choice I made." "Tell me about your family," David had said. "I want to know about the people who raised the woman I love." Luna had smiled through her tears and told him about her parents, who were scientists and explorers, about her younger brother, who was studying to become a healer, about her grandmother, who had taught her to listen to the songs that planets sing when you're traveling through space. "Every world has its own music," Luna had explained. "Earth's song is different from anywhere I've ever been. It's deeper, richer, more complex." "What does it sound like?" "Like hope," Luna had said. "Like a world that believes in second chances." As the months passed, David watched Luna slowly become more comfortable with her new life. She started volunteering at the local animal shelter, discovering that she had a natural gift for calming frightened animals. She learned to drive, though she found human transportation frustratingly slow compared to what she was used to. Even started taking art classes in town, finding that painting helped her express the homesickness she couldn't share with anyone but David. The biggest surprise had come 3 months ago, when Luna had nervously told David that she thought she might be pregnant. "Is that possible?" David had asked, amazed. "I mean, we're different species." "More possible than you might think," Luna had said, placing her hand on her still flat stomach. "Our people are very adaptable. Love has a way of making impossible things possible." The pregnancy had been confirmed by a doctor in Denver, who specialized in unusual cases and who had agreed to keep their situation confidential. Luna was carrying a healthy baby who seemed to be developing normally, though there were some differences that the doctor couldn't explain and that Luna suspected were related to the baby's mixed heritage. Now, watching Luna in their garden, David could see the small curve of her belly that showed she was carrying their child. The baby would be born in another 4 months, and David felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness when he thought about becoming a father. "What if the baby has abilities like yours?" David had asked Luna one evening as they lay in bed, his hand resting on her growing belly. "Then we'll teach them to be careful," Luna had said. "We'll teach them to use their gifts to help others, the same way you've helped me." "What if they ask about your people, about where half of their heritage comes from?" Luna had been quiet for a long moment. "Then we'll tell them the truth, that their mother's people are travelers among the stars, and that love brought there." parents together across impossible distances. As David sat on the porch that evening, he thought about the future they were building together. Luna came over and sat beside him, taking his hand and placing it on her belly where he could feel the baby moving. "Any regrets?" Luna asked, the question she always asked when she caught him looking thoughtful. "Just one," David said. Luna looked concerned. "What?" "I regret that I can't take you to meet my parents. I think they would have loved you." Luna squeezed his hand. "Maybe someday when the baby is older and we've figured out how to explain everything, we can visit them." Maybe, David agreed, though he wasn't sure how they would ever explain Luna's true origins to his family, as they sat together watching the sun set over the mountains. David reflected on how much his life had changed since that night when his car broke down on the old highway. He had been living a quiet, predictable life, and now he was married to a woman from another world, about to become a father to a child who would be part human and part something amazing. "Luna," David said softly, "yes, I love you. All of you. Where you came from, who you are now, and who you're becoming." Luna turned to look at him, and in the fading light, David could see that faint glow in her skin that appeared when she was deeply happy. "I love you too," she said. "Thank you for giving me a home." As the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, David knew that whatever challenges lay ahead for their unusual family, they would face them together. Luna had chosen Earth, chosen him, chosen their future together. And every day, David chose. To make sure she never regretted that decision, their love story had begun with a chance encounter on a lonely highway. But David knew it was far from over. They were building something new together, a life that bridged two worlds, a family that would carry the best of both their peoples into the future, and somewhere out there, among the stars, David hoped that Luna's people would eventually understand that love, not conquest, was the greatest force in the universe.